Hi there, you're at the Bitcoin Wyckoff analysis session, and we'll quickly look at in both weekly and daily timeline where Bitcoin is heading to given the latest few days of resistant-like kind of price actions. So going to the weekly chart. So if you're new to this session, you see two sets of text. One set is in yellow, the other is in blue. So the blue ones are, well, both of them are distribution cycle stages, but the blue ones are the earlier ones that I started off with a few months back. If you have been following along, you're very familiar with these ones. That's the first possible scenario back in like very early this year. And then I talked about, when I look at it, it seems like there can be another possibility, and that's the yellow scenario. Both are distribution. The yellow ones consider this part between the February to September last year a preliminary supply period rather than a buying climax and sign of weakness kind of stage. So basically at that time, in the yellow scenario, the peak or the climax hasn't happened yet. It's only until December last year that the buying climax happened. That's for the yellow scenario. For the blue one, it considered the buying climax happened much earlier, back in March 2024. Based on the latest movement, last week I brought back the discussion about should we go back to look at or reconsider the yellow scenario again, because the price movement looks like it's conforming more to the yellow scenario, while the blue scenario hasn't been ruled out yet. And given both Upthrust and Upthrust of the distribution, we understand that after those two stages, there would be some sort of price retracement and then maybe some smaller peaks as well before the price goes to a full decline. That's the textbook theory. And given the latest Bitcoin moves, we see quite a bit of selling. If we look at the bottom, the volume bar, it's a little bit higher, not too much higher compared to the last 2 months roughly. And if we look at the candles, we see the longer wicks. Let me enlarge it. If you're watching on mobile, the earlier size would be difficult to see. So here we see quite a bit of long wicks on the at the head of the candle, and that means there are quite a number of people selling at that point. And today as well, you see this wick keeps on remaining longer than what we have at the tail. So this may be a worrying sign for whoever that's bullish, but don't be disappointed or don't lose your hope yet, because we also talk about this upward channel, this yellow box here, that started March this year. And if this bottom edge of the box, this is the support line, based on the current movement, the support is around 108,000. And if time goes on, this will move higher and higher. If the price doesn't break outside of this upward channel, then there may still hold a chance that it's going to make a newer high. So that's why a few weeks back I put in the title saying, is Bitcoin going to test this 135 mark? Because that's back then it was like having more of a consistent momentum. While it's tracing along this, there's a chance that it hits 130k. Currently, it doesn't. It's probably affecting some people's confidence as well because of these increasing volume over here. But it's if we look at the chart here, there was some sideways movements during May to end June. So right now I would consider it moving a little bit sideways, given this candle isn't like dropping too much. There is still a chance that it hits the bottom edge of this yellow box when it moves across at around mid-August or like the first fortnight of August. Then it bounces up and go test this 135, 136 level. That's basically the top edge of the blue box. The blue box itself is a longer term upward trend that started, you can say, almost going back to October 2023. That's almost or getting to 2 full years now. So this channel ceiling, the blue one, it's going to be a strong resistance when the price really bounced from the bottom edge of the yellow box to test this top edge of the blue box. So that's the big picture. And one more thing, I probably have also mentioned in the previous session, and in many other altcoin sessions, you notice I talk about this as well. When we look at the crossing of these channels, we see these wedges, and if you're into candlesticks patterns analysis, this upward wedge is something they consider a bearish sign, a bearish pattern. So if the price continue to squeeze into this narrow wedge, most of the times it doesn't go all the way to the very tip to make a breakout. So upward wedge they consider bearish, so like a price drop. However, if they're strong enough, like big news come out that's outside of the normal pattern, the outliers events, then it can break out the break above the blue line. So let's say if we follow the textbook scenario that it falls towards the downside from the upward wedge. Here we're looking at the timeline, like I said, the latest would be end October, but usually based on observation, it happens somewhere along the middle of the cross section. The cross section, I mean this blue line over here. So the middle of it is around early September. So at this point in time, we may be, assuming the price still continue within the yellow box, we may be able to see something happening late August or first week of September. So let's see whether that's the case. And if you ask me whether the upthrust of the distribution will continue, that's exactly why we need the price to keep moving inside this yellow box. That's how this is going to continue. So by that time, if it really happens, we'll move these 2 marks over here to whichever high price point it is, may it be 130k, 135k, or even 140k. So this is all within this yellow box range. So that's the weekly time frame. And into the micro scale in the daily, previously we put in this upthrust over here. This upthrust is different from the one in the earlier chart. It's not the same one as the weekly chart. You see the much more busy pattern over here in the daily. So initially there were no analysis of this in the daily because it's just too crazy, but there was a comment, a request from a community member saying, hey, let's do something in a more frequent timeline that looks like more exciting. So that's why it's here. So back to the point here, if this is really an upthrust, and currently it's giving us some sideways movements, but then also it's having something like a flat bottom. Hopefully it is gathering momentum if this bar doesn't come down, because if today's candle or tomorrow, it's going to come down to test this support. You see this this slope, this yellow slope over here, right? So this currently, if it happens in the next 2 days, it will come down to test the 110, the 110k. hopefully it will find support and then continue to move up along the yellow box that we already covered in the weekly chart. But the volume over here, it's a bit worrying. There seems to be quite some people losing confidence at the 120k mark. So at this point, if this line holds, that's the best scenario for it to continue to move sideways and then eventually move up along this yellow box. If it doesn't, if it comes down to test this bottom edge of the sloped yellow box, well, let me change the color because there are two yellow boxes, so if I change it to blue it's easier. If it comes down to hit the blue box and stays above this slope, then it's still fine from like a price climb perspective. Though if it comes down to hit, like it falls through the blue and finds support somewhere along this one of these three yellow lines, that means it's going to develop a new range, because if it really falls outside of this blue box, what it can happen is it finds support, say, on the top yellow line. Let me enlarge this. And that means the blue line now becomes a resistance. So it can happen in a way that it still have some peaks, but then it may take longer while to reach the level it is at now. So it may go all the way into September before it comes back to the 120k mark. So that's how the dynamics can develop. And if this is really an upthrust, the upside is, based on the Wyckoff method, there's still a chance for something even higher that's called the upthrust of the distribution. How it can happen, I already mentioned. The chart can develop something like this and then go up at a later date, or it can stay within the box and then continue to that, like, we don't know how high it is. It can be 130 or 140, as long as it stays within this upward channel. So that's it. That's how it looks like for